Welcome to the MyData podcast. I'm your host, Molly Schwartz, and in the MyData podcast, we cover all the big questions facing our personal data management systems. So all of us are leaving data trails behind us in our everyday lives when we use our phones and computers, and this is data that describes us and who we are and what we do. And so in every episode of this podcast, we talk to a guest who's involved in shaping the future of personal data management, and we get into a lot of the big questions about technology, policy, culture, ethics, and today we have as our guest the CTO of the Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, Petteri Kivimäki. And we were just talking, he has a background first working in libraries, but then working in different technical jobs, and we're really happy to have him here today. So Petteri, how are you doing?
Hello everyone. I'm fine, thank you, and it's really nice to be here today.
Yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about do you guys call it NIIS?
The name is really long, Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, so usually we just call it NIIS.
And can you tell me what exactly it is and how long it's been around for?
NIIS is a joint organization founded by Estonia and Finland. Our aim is to develop e-government solutions to our members, and we are kicking off with X-Road solution, which is a data exchange layer software used both in Estonia and in Finland. And we are a pretty new organization, as NIIS was founded in 2017 in June, and myself I started at NIIS in February this year, so more or less 6 months ago.
Yeah, so it's a new position. What were you doing before you came to NIIS?
Well, before NIIS, I worked 1 year at Accenture as a technology consultant and architect, and before that, I worked at the Finnish Population Register Center, where I was actually already working with X-Road. I started at the Population Register Center in 2014 when the Finnish X-Road implementation project started, and I worked as a technical lead of that project. So even if I'm new at NIIS, and NIIS is a new organization, but I have a history with X-Road already before NIIS.
And can you tell me what exactly is X-Road?
Yeah, so like I said, X-Road is a data exchange layer solution. So it provides standardized and secure way to exchange information between different information systems.
Got it. And it's my understanding that Estonia has actually been using this for a while, and they are the ones, I think, who developed the protocol. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So X-Road was originally developed in Estonia, and the first version was released already in 2001. So it's not a new system. It has been around almost 20 years already, but of course it has developed a lot over time, and there has been multiple different versions of it, and the current version is version number 6, and that version was implemented also in Finland in 2015.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that what's so revolutionary about Finland and Estonia both applying this X-Road data exchange protocol is that you all will actually be able to use the same government services or exchange data between your different government services between countries. Is that what you all are trying to do?
Yeah, that's true. So both Estonia and Finland use X-Road nationwide, and X-Road has a feature called federation. So Finland and Estonia both have their own X-Road environments, but federation enables different environments to be connected so that services can be produced and consumed between different environments. So technically it's already possible. It has been possible since February 2018, but there are no cross-border services in production yet. So at the moment we are trying to find use cases and get some real use cases implemented in production.
Yeah, because that would be pretty huge. I mean, and if you were the first two countries to start doing it, I imagine there would be more countries that would want to add on. But so you all are kind of managing the data exchange protocol, but you would need other organizations to come in and build on top of it. Is that how it would work? And what kind of organizations would you think would be able to plug into it?
So there are there are many different kind of roles. First, if we think about NIIS, we are responsible for developing the X-Road core technology. So you can see us as a software vendor, even if we are not a vendor in that sense that we are developing open source software that is available for anyone. But in any case, we develop the technology and all the aspects related to it. Then Finland and Estonia, they are running their own X-Road environments. In Finland, the X-Road environment, the service, is called Suomi.fi data exchange layer, and in Estonia, the service is called XT. In Finland, the Population Register Center is responsible for running the service here, and then in Estonia, Information System Authority is responsible for running XT. So they are our closest partners when it comes to X-Road and how we develop it. And so these are the organizations that are managing the software and and providing the services. But then, of course, we also need the actual services and also organizations that consume the services. And that's actually the most challenging part when it comes to cross-border services. So we need to find different organizations using X-Road in Finland and different organizations using X-Road in Estonia that want to exchange data with each other, or organizations who find it beneficial. So we are talking all kinds of organizations, I mean public sector, private sector, even municipalities, but I think the first use cases, the most beneficial ones, they are about exchanging, for example, tax related information, maybe medical records, personal data, that kind of things. There are a lot of Estonians who work in Finland and vice versa, so also personal data like addresses, phone numbers, that kind of things. I think it's very important use case, and automating it could bring quite much savings. I mean, lot less manual work.
Yeah, definitely. I can already imagine, like, I mean, going from one country to another right now, there are so many like switching costs and just like all these day-to-day things that you need to reapply for in the new countries. Yeah, so what appealed to you about doing this work? Like, did you want to work on X-Road, or did you just find yourself there?
Well, that's a good question. When I was before I started to work at the Population Register Center in 2014, I worked at the National Library of Finland, and I participated in a training related to X-Road, and I found the system very interesting. And then some months later, I saw a job advertisement where the Population Register Center was looking for an information systems manager for leading the technical implementation in Finland, and I thought that even the system seemed interesting, and also the position was very interesting, and I decided to apply it, and well, here I am.
Yeah, do you think that the work that you did at the National Library, are there many things that carry over from library work to working on like e-government services?
Yes, definitely. So usually people don't think library as a very technical place. They think that, well, it's all about books and manual work and that kind of things, but actually there are so many different kind of information systems in libraries, and integrations between the systems. They play really important role so that everything can work as smoothly as possible. And well, X-Road is also about transferring information between different information systems, and well, that's definitely in common. And then also vocabularies, ontologies, metadata. They are, well, very important things in the library world, and also nowadays in almost any information system. So actually there are lots of similarities.
Yeah, I can imagine there's like a lot of XML happening in library databases, and I would imagine it's the same for e-government data. What you're saying is that X-Road was started in 2001 in Estonia, which was kind of at the beginning of when they were building up their current like government systems. Do you think that it still holds from then, that it still works well? And why did it take so long for any other country to try to also connect to X-Road?
Yeah, I think that X-Road still works very well for Estonia. I mean, they have I don't remember the exact number, but they have thousands of services connected to X-Road nowadays, and well, most of their data exchange it relies on X-Road, so it's a really essential system for them. And that's a good question. Why did it take so long until any other country implemented it? So Finland started the implementation project in 2014, and the production environment was published in 2015. But actually, Finland is not the first country to implement X-Road after Estonia. There are other countries too. If you go to see our website, www.NIIS.org, there is an X-Road world map where you can see all the countries that are using X-Road or considering using it, and you will be amazed after seeing the map how many countries there actually are. So there are before Finland there were already other countries using it, but well, not in Europe, and maybe not so developed countries as Finland. There is one country in Africa, then in South America, and also in the East.
So could people from those countries be connecting to some of the services in Estonia using X-Road?
Basically, yeah, but when we are talking about the federation feature, it makes it possible to connect different X-Road environments with each other, but it doesn't mean that all the X-Road environments are automatically connected. So it requires some configuration, and for example, at the moment, Estonian and Finnish X-Road are connected, but Finland hasn't created a connection with X-Road in Azerbaijan, for example, because they are using it too.
Cool. Yeah. What are some of the security concerns with this kind of data transfer happening, and how are you all working to manage those?
X-Road has quite many built-in features when it comes to security, and I would say that it's definitely more secure option than traditional point-to-point integrations. So when you are transferring data through X-Road, the built-in features, they are already there, so you don't have to, the administrator don't have to manually configure them, and you can be sure that the same features and same controls are there also on the other side.
Got it. Yeah. Your product is it an open source software itself, or it's an open source environment that people build on top of? Can you explain like how X-Road is or isn't open source?
Yeah, X-Road definitely is open source. All the source code is published under the MIT license, that is the most permissive open source license. So basically you can, and also practically, you can take the source code, modify it, build your own service. You can do actually whatever you want it, and you don't need our permission to do it.
Yeah, cool. And how many people are on your team here at NIIS in Finland?
Well, in our development team we have 4 developers at the moment, and then when it comes to NIIS, at the moment we are 4 people.
Okay, that's not so many. What have been some of the challenges, and especially some things that you maybe weren't expecting that have been challenging starting your work as CTO?
Well, I don't know. Actually, at the moment, there hasn't been any unexpected challenges yet. I don't say that there hasn't been any challenges, but everything has been more or less expected as so far, because like I said, I've already worked with X-Road before and been responsible for the development side of it too. So I knew pretty well what to expect when I decided to take this position. So from my point of view, everything has gone according to plans as so far, and no big surprises. Actually, I have a very positive feeling about everything, especially because we are starting the sprint 1 tomorrow, so it's a big day.
I'm glad I caught you before that. What will the sprint 1 involve?
Well, we have some actually 2 major goals for this year. We must implement REST support for X-Road, and then we also need to implement support for Ubuntu 18 operating system. So those are the 2 major goals for this year, but of course then we are going to do also many minor enhancements too.
Why are those the 2 major goals? What would that enable, having these 2 features?
Well, if we start from Ubuntu 18, currently X-Road supports Red Hat 7 and Ubuntu 14 operating systems, and the support for Ubuntu 14 is ending next year. So we really need to support a later version for that. So it's kind of obvious. But then about REST support. So at the moment the X-Road protocol is based on SOAP, which is an XML-based protocol, and it has been around for quite a while already, and actually there are still many older systems using it, but nowadays when you implement a new information system, it usually doesn't use SOAP anymore. Nowadays REST and JSON, they are the technologies that are used, and of course X-Road at the moment is based on SOAP, but many information systems that are using it are based on REST and JSON. So it means additional work for the organizations that own the information systems when they start to use X-Road. and it creates additional cost, and some organizations may choose not to use X-Road because of that, which is not good, of course. Using X-Road should be as easy as possible, and implementing a native REST and JSON support for X-Road enables organizations to join and use X-Road lot easier. So that's our goal.
How were you using X-Road at the Population Center? What services were you using it for?
Well, the Population Register Center is the X-Road operator in Finland, so they are controlling and managing the Finnish X-Road environment. But in addition to that, they are also a service provider. So the Population Register Center is the owner of the population register system in Finland that contains information about all the people living in Finland, and that information has been published through X-Road in Finland. So I think that's one of the most important and most used services in the Finnish X-Road at the moment.
Is that all kept in like kind of one database that is controlled by the government, and do people ever get nervous about like surveillance and privacy issues in regards to that?
Yeah, basically it's a one big database that contains all the information, but of course it's not just any database. It's a very secure database, and there are regulations and classifications regarding data, so there are lots of controls. So it's a very secure system and very secure database, but of course there are always concerns, and it's I think it's impossible to convince everyone that there's no need to worry.
Yeah, because that's something like I know in the US there's been big fights, like the social security number has become a default identity number, but there have been times when they've tried to institute some kind of like national ID number, and people have really fought against it because they want to prevent this kind of like government centralization of keeping track of the population. But a lot of people also complain in the US about how government services, e-government services, don't work so well. And I actually would like to ask you about that. What would you say to people who think that e-government services are a lot of times lagging behind the innovations in the tech industry? Do you think that's true? And do you think there's like a good reason for it?
Yeah, I think that partially it is true. I mean that currently technology it gives so many different kind of opportunities, and technically you could create very innovative services that are maybe easier to use than the current services. But then of course there is legislation, regulations regarding privacy and how data can be used. So technology gives you the opportunity to do many things, but then because there are regulation and legislation, you just can't use the data that you have. So there should be a better balance between that. But of course, data security and privacy issues, they are very important. That it's not okay either that your data can be used for anything that some maybe commercial organization decides.
Yeah, I would say based on what's been coming out recently about how some of these companies that maybe can move very quickly have been using data, it makes people think that there's a benefit to having some caution and some time to test out programs and see how they work. what are you looking forward to hearing about at the MyData conference? Is this the first MyData conference you've participated in, and what do you plan to be talking about with people there?
Yeah, this is my first MyData conference, and I'm really curious to meet different people there, people from different backgrounds. And well, in general, I'm curious to hear different kind of point of views regarding MyData, and yeah, also tell about X-Road, and tell people how X-Road possibly could be used to solve some of the problems regarding MyData.
Totally. I think this might be a good chance to get some use cases. And you're going to be presenting there, right? And what track will you be presenting on?
I'm going to be presenting on the interoperability track.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. So with the GDPR coming out in Europe, data portability is a big aspect of it. Do you think that X-Road is potentially a protocol that people could be using to implement the data portability requirements?
Yeah, X-Road definitely has some features that are beneficial in that sense. So X-Road provides logging of all the messages, all the data that is sent through it, and in addition, all the messages, they are signed and time stamped. So you can afterwards you can use the logs for proving that the data has not been tampered.
If you were to imagine kind of like all your dreams fulfilled for how like the X-Road implementation goes and moves forward, what would it look like?
Yeah, maybe the perfect situation would be that the European Union would choose X-Road as the data exchange layer that all the member countries have to use for data exchange.
Yeah, that would really be like a true implementation of the goals of the EU's kind of like mobility between the countries. I feel like then it could be fully realized in like an easy way. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
I mean, open source is a really important thing to me. I've been working with open source software for years, and it's well, I could also call it as a hobby, because well, I'm a software engineer, and I also used to be a programmer. Obviously nowadays it's not my main task, but I still like to do it every now and then, and that's why I really like what NIIS is doing with X-Road. X-Road is open source, and it's a really unique situation that two countries, Finland and Estonia, are developing an open source solution together. Well, world is full of open source project, different kind of open source software, but at least I don't know any other project or software that is developed by two countries and then released as open source, and I think it's really cool.
It is really cool. I am wondering, how did you start programming? How did you get started as a computer programmer?
Yeah, that's actually a funny story. I was working at Aalto University Library back then. I think it was in 2004, in 2005. We had a project. It was about improving the usability of the library. And now I'm not talking about the usability of the website or some information system, but the usability of the library as a whole. And well, one action that came out from the project was to create a wayfinding solution, a web solution to the library, so that the customers can locate the publications more easily. And so we decided to implement that kind of a software web service, but the problem was that we didn't have any programmers and none of us knew how to program. So I decided that, well, it seems interesting. I start to study programming so that I can implement this project. At that point, it was my only goal. But then, while I was implementing the project and learning more all the time, I realized that, hey, this is something really interesting, and this is what I want to do in the future too. So after the project, I applied for studying programming, and then in 2010, I graduated in software engineering.
Yeah, so this wraps up our conversation. I think people who want to hear more about the work that you're doing should consider coming to the MyData conference, the MyData 2018 conference. It will be in Helsinki at the end of August, and you can find more information on the website at www.mydata2018.org. There's information about the rest of the speakers on the program, some of whom we've talked to on this podcast, and information about how to register. Thanks so much for joining us today, Petteri.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the MyData podcast. The MyData conference takes place in Helsinki, Finland, August 29th to 31st, 2018. Find out more on this year's conference website at mydata2018.org. The show notes and video versions of this podcast are available on the MyData Global Network website at mydata.org. You can contact us via email at podcast@mydata.org or on Twitter @mydata.org. We thank the Metropolitan New York Library Council for letting us record in their studio at 599 11th Avenue in New York City. Music is by David Cutter Music and Joachim Karud. This podcast is copyright MyData 2018. The MyData podcast was produced by me, Gianfranco Cicconi. The host was Molly Schwartz. Video and audio are available for redistribution under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License version 4.0 International. See you next time.